So welcome back to this course, Professional Scientific Communication, week 3 lectures. We are discussing about how do you arrive at very good, and effective title for your research articles. So in the previous, lecture, we looked into some of the guidelines that are given by, journals and what are the elements that you have to look at in a title to make it more effective. Therefore, the readers will be able to, or they will be interested, or you create interest in the readers to read your article and so on. So today we are going to expand that. We are going to continue with that discussion and see that how we can make titles better. So this is what's shown here in this slide, that you, before you arrive at this point, that is what should be the title for your manuscript should have been ready. That's the point that we stressed upon. So you have your manuscripts ready, and then you are planning to come up with an attractive and informative title for your article. Then you need to first ask certain questions, put brief answers for these questions, and use these answers as key points to come up with a very good title. These are some of the guidelines. First is, what is my paper about? So you need to really write one liner on the outcome or exactly what that you are asking in your paper. Say my paper studies whether X therapy, we are not saying what therapy it is, it could be radio or chemo or drug, whatever it is. Let's say a given therapy, and you are showing that it improves the cognitive function of patients suffering from dementia, right? So dementia is a memory disorder, you lose your memory, and this is the condition, and we are talking about a therapy aimed at patients that suffer from this dementia, and these patients are given this particular therapy, and then is looked at the outcome of that therapy and says that it improves the cognitive function. They are able to recollect and remember better than otherwise. Let's say that's what your work was about. What techniques, design, study design were used in your study? So that's the second question for which we need to put certain answers. That is, it was a normalized trial, meaning in clinical trials you have large number of patients, and then you sort of group of patients for your study, and these are randomized, meaning you randomly pick up, you don't constrain anything, you have certain basic criteria for including a patient for the study, and from there you randomly select individuals for a given therapy, right, for the clinical trial. So that's what called as randomized trials. So this is random, therefore you can have 3 different such sets. One group randomly chosen, again from this the population that you have recruited, you can choose another group and so on. Therefore it takes care of any bias. What was studied? That is the third element. That is, I studied, say for example, 40 cases from 6 cities in Japan. So that's what it is about. Now these are the the answers, one-liners for the question, 3 important questions. That is, what is my paper about, what technique, design or method I used, and what I studied, and of course what was the outcome is also sort of covered in the very first question, that is, what is my paper about. Now you have to generate keywords, right, and these are the keywords that are identified. For example, X therapy, X meaning a given drug or some other form of therapy, and then the cognitive functions of patients. That is again important element, because if you only keep patient as a keyword, then it could be anything and everything. So you have to say cognitive aspect, and the disorder is dementia, and then the method that you have used is randomized trial, and you have 40 cases, and then the population is 6 cities in Japan and things like that. So 40 cases also, if your study really is large, involving large number of samples, you want to say that because that makes it much more powerful. So therefore at times you even in medical case reports or medical reports, they even talk about the study population as to how big it is, and the outcome also, it improves cognitive function. So that is again a keyword that is coming out of your responses. Now what you do is you take these keywords that are listed here and then try to make it as a sentence. That's what shown here. This study, he can use this keyword to come up with this sentence. This study is a randomized trial that investigates whether X therapy improved cognitive function in 40 dementia patients from 6 cities in Japan. It reports improved function, cognitive function. Again, it is an abstract, but that's what you arrived at after having all these important, key words, right? Now it's long, 28 words. It's too long, and this would certainly not be a good title for any research paper. So what you should do next, you should remove all unnecessary repetitive words. Even if you remove, then you see the rest of them, if I put together, does it convey, right? And that's what you have to look at. For example, this study is a redundant thing. Any scientific article in a journal is a study, right? It's a research study, therefore need not be told. Simply say a randomized trial. That, is a technical word. People in your field, suppose you are a clinician or you are working on some clinical research projects, then anybody in that field would know what is a randomized trial. So you don't need to explain. So randomized trial is good enough, and you are talking about a given therapy improved cognitive function. That is important. And then in 40 dementia patients from 66 cities in Japan, again is an outcome that is there, and then you remove all unnecessary words from the line. Then you have this particular title, that is randomized trial of X therapy for improving cognitive function in 40 dementia patients from 6 cities of Japan. So this now from 28 words you are able to bring down to 18 words. Now still it can be worked, right? Now you can again delete non-essential information and reword the title. For example, randomized trial of X therapy for improving, that is very important, it should be there, cognitive function in 40 dementia patients. Now you can remove, for example, maybe if it is not that critical, it doesn't matter whether it is from Japan or any other place, as long as you are convinced that a given therapy would improve the cognitive function in patients that are suffering with dementia, is good enough. Anybody who work on that dementia would look into your article. So you can say now reword your title as randomized trial of X therapy for improving cognitive function in 40 dementia patients, right? 13 words. Now you can also do some kind of reorientation of the title to make it more attractive. This is an alternate way of putting it. X therapy improves cognitive function in 40 dementia patients, and then colon, you make a subtitle that is a randomized trial. So this makes it, approach comes at the end, but you say the outcome first, so it makes much more, it has carry much more impact. So these are some of the suggestions that are given, and from the link that are given in slide as well. Now you may want to go back and then look into these links and read more, and then try to work around the bullets that you made, and then come up with better title. So I'm continuing again, going back to these publishers, again reproduced from the Springer website, which says the importance of the titles. Again I'm going to use some of those examples, few more examples. So now this is one title they say that is not good. Does vaccinating children and adolescents with inactivated influenza virus inhibit the spread of influenza in unimmunized residents of rural communities? It is, it has too many unnecessary words because it doesn't convey anything. Now it's like a question because I don't know the outcome, and your title does not convey as to what was the outcome. You're asking a question, whether you have done this, whether you are saying that this is a good question, or have you addressed this question, what is the outcome. Nothing is obvious from this particular title, so one can reword it. For example, influenza vaccination of children, and colon, you make a subtitle, a randomized trial, right? So this is, again I am taking it from the Springer website to say that why even journals say that you should come up with good titles, because it is their own interest. Unless your title of your manuscript is attractive, now the readership for the journal is going to go down, because if all the articles that are accepted in a given journal are not attractive, then the readership is going to go down. So they are in the business is readership. They are going to get more business if there are more readers. Therefore, they emphasize that your title of your manuscript that are submitted to the journal are good quality, otherwise they will reject, right? It's their own interest, and it's your own interest as well, because you want to really publish your finding in a better journal. Therefore, you have a better readership. Therefore, you need to know how to really arrive at good and effective title. So this is example to show again an ineffective way of title. So if you can see here that there are examples that are given. I will come back to what could possibly the best title. Now you are having two different titles. One is influenza vaccination of children randomized trial, and it doesn't give enough of information about, it doesn't make sense as to what is the outcome again. Then you have another title, effect of child influenza vaccination on infection rates in rural communities, a randomized trial. This is an effective title. It is short, easy to understand, and conveys the important aspect of the research. Now you know that by comparing different titles and how you are able to arrive at something that is more effective than the other, right? So this is exactly one of the important aspects, right? You cannot arrive at a best title in one go. So you have to write down a few possible titles and then select the best to refine further. So you have to really show it to somebody not exactly part of your team who worked with you and wrote the paper together, because they know everything about the paper. Therefore, when you write, you always believe that you have conveyed everything that you had in your mind. But when you give it to a third person who was not involved, then he or she reads and you will ask questions, right? It doesn't mean this. Do you mean this? Does it, your work reflect these aspects? Like, ask your colleagues for their opinion. Spending the time needed to do this will result in a better title. So it's important that you write in, 2 or 3, 4 alternative titles, discuss, arrive at a better title. So that is extremely important. That's about the title. And I really want to re-emphasize is that you are able to introduce your work to your readers through the title, and often these are through the table of contents. When the new issue of the journal is published, many of the researchers go and read these and then try to understand what has come new in this particular field. But is it the only way by which your manuscript or your article can get a readership? Now, what about the past issues? I am talking about an issue that is going to say appear in the month of December in 2017. But what about the journal has been publishing papers since say 1950. So you have almost like 60 years, 70 years of papers. So how am I going to look at any paper that talks about the kind of research I do? So if you go to your library, then it is a snapshot of a library, that it has racks, it has full of books, journals. Now how do you know which one of these thousands of issues of journal carry article that is of relevance to your particular topic? So how do you really go and find, right? This is where the challenge comes. It is again a cartoon to show that if you really want to pull out each issue of the journal and then read and which are the articles talks about, you probably would complete 5 years before you arrive at number of papers to even do a literature survey. So that is not the way. So how do you really arrive at? In fact, your title helps, because when you write a research article, the title has all these keywords, and there are powerful search engines nowadays which pulls out papers based on the query that you generate. For example, what I am showing you is one of the very good search engine for biomedical research field. It's called PubMed. It's given on the top, and often most of the papers that I discuss are all from this search engine. I give some query words and get the paper and read and go. So what I have done is I have just entered the query called epilepsy, and then it lists a large number of papers. You can see that in the middle it says search results items 1 to 20 of 1,71,806, meaning there are as many publications, articles that are related to the query word epilepsy, right? So this is the way you go and look at the articles that are interest to you. But this is when you wanted to look at any article that talks about this particular query word. But for this to happen, say suppose you worked on a particular research project that is related to epilepsy, and it may not be exactly epilepsy, something related to epilepsy, then anybody who is searching the word epilepsy, if they have to find your article, then your article often carries what is called as keywords, right? When you submit a manuscript, in addition to the title, abstract, methods, introduction, results and discussion, you also provide a few keywords to the publisher. Therefore, when it is accepted, your article is tagged, mapped to certain keywords. So as and when somebody puts that as a query, then it pulls out your article. Therefore, it is your duty, in addition to making a very good title, you also have to think of giving very good keywords. Therefore, it can improve the readership. That is exactly what I am going to talk about. So this is the manuscript that has come out of our group recently, which pretty obvious. If you look into the title, then you can see what it really is. It says suppression of leptin signaling reduces polyglucose and inclusions and seizure susceptibility in a mouse model of Lafora disease. It says exactly what the work was about. It talks about the disease name, and that we worked on a mouse model, and that model has a particular phenotype or symptoms, epilepsy, that is what you call in technical word seizures. In addition, they have certain abnormal inclusion called polyglucose and inclusion, and by suppressing a particular signaling pathway, you can get rid of these, right? So that's the message it conveys. Now there are words that are there in the title, but there are words that are not in the title, but they are as important to reach to this article when somebody is working on very similar area. So that is what called as keywords. The keywords are important words or concepts found in your research paper or thesis, right, in the entire text, but not in the title. An easy way is to choose the most important nouns. All other words are irrelevant. When I talk about suppression of leptin signaling reduces polyglucose, and the nouns are like polyglucose and leptin signaling, these are the nouns. Suppression, reduces is meaningless because this is going to be there in most of the other topics, that doesn't really matter here. So you have to use that as keyword, which is anyway there in the title. So those that are already there in the title will anyway be linked to your article. But what you are expected to give is that you are supposed to give few words that are not already present in the title, yet they are very, very relevant to your work and can be used as a keyword, something that you need to keep in mind. So the keywords are used to search by the search engines, like even Google search, Yahoo, whatever it is. All these search engines uses keywords because, for example, I am from IIT Kanpur. So the website of Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur would have all these keywords. That is, it will have a it's a university, it will be linking, it will link to Kanpur and so on. Now anyone uses these one or a combination of the keyword will end up, the search engine will give you the hit for this particular site, exactly the same way the PubMed, for example, also does. So there are a number of different databases uses these keywords. These are GeoRef, Eric Thesaurus, PsychoInfo, ChemWeb, Biosis, SearchGate, MeshTerms, so on. And these are the keywords you have to generate, give when you submit an article for publication. They are called as keyword because it is like a key with a single small metallic piece. You are able to open a door with which you can enter a huge house or hall or whatever it is. So exactly the same way your work could have been discussed in 40 pages, but you are able to arrive at that work, someone else is able to arrive at the work using a few words. Therefore the keywords are as important as the key for you to enter your room or house or wherever you go. So you have to remember that. So you have to arrive at a good So as I told you, to some of the keywords that already exist in the title are the following. For example, leptin, polyglucosan, Schizer, Lafora, all these are nouns, right? So these are already there in the title. So you don't need to give additional, as a keyword, the same, words, because it becomes redundant. Nonetheless, to increase the visibility of your paper, every journal will ask you to give some 4 or 5 keywords. They will say at least minimum 3. So you want to choose words that are not already there in your title, but they are extremely important for the kind of work that you have done and detailed in the paper, and which can bring in more visibility. So that's what I said. These are good keywords but already exist in the title. So you want to bring in something beyond what is covered in the title, which could be relevant to this paper. So I am saying epilepsy, right? This is a word that is not there. So if you have used the word epilepsy, then if it is restricted only to the title, then my search will not end up getting this particular paper, because this paper is about one form of epilepsy. The alternate more technical name for that is Schizer. So if you have simply gone with the query, then it will not list that. So you want to give that. The polyglucosan, what they call, it's an inclusion. It is because of some defect in glycogen metabolism, right? So you want to give that glycogen metabolism as a keyword, which is not reflected in the title when you go with purely the query based search. And also this particular model that the paper discusses is about a defect in a gene that codes for a protein phosphatase. So a defect in a protein phosphatase results in the disease. Therefore, I can have that as a link, as a keyword. Therefore, anybody who searches also can end up reading this. So these are some of the hints as to how you arrive at good keywords, and they are extremely important for you to help the reader to arrive at your articles and read them. So that's where the keywords are. And then you have to again work on the keywords, think about it, put down on a paper and see which one is combinations are the best for your article. Like again, I am reproducing from the Springer website. Manuscript title is Region Specific Neuronal Degeneration After Okadaic Acid Administration, which clearly says if you administer a drug, the okadaic acid, then there are regions in the brain, the neurons, that they die. So that's the title. So what are the good keywords, what are the not so good or poor keywords? Let's see what are the poor keywords. Neurons, brain, it's redundant because already there. OA, right? You're talking about something is an abbreviation of something else. By giving that OA, it doesn't really help. You shouldn't give abbreviations. Regional specific neuronal degeneration, again, this is already exist in your title. Therefore, it is it's not at all required again. Signaling, again, it is is redundant in here, or it doesn't really help. So better keywords are neurodegenerative disease, because there are neuron region specific neurodegeneration is one of the important kind of events in neurodegenerative disorder. Therefore, it can link there. Then you are talking about CA1 region. This is talking about a particular region of the hippocampus, because that is the region that possibly affected here. So you can give that region, because it says region specific, but it doesn't say which region is, and which region is can be explained in the keyword. Then you call hippocampal, because this is a region in the brain, and neurotoxin and signaling system, because these are all what is called as phosphorylation dependent signaling that happens in the neuron. Okadaic acid is a kind of an inhibitor that can inhibit some of these signaling events and cell death and so on. So you have to think as to what should be the best keyword that can link your paper to the reader if they use certain keywords to search for literature in that field. And that pretty much sort of completes the importance of titles, the importance of keywords for readers to arrive at your publications once that is done.